Elaine, and today I will be talking about John F. Kennedy's speech, the decision to go to the moon, otherwise known as just the moon speech, because it inspired the idea of putting a man on the moon and working hard for it. First, let's talk about John F. Kennedy and his family and things like that. John F. Kennedy was born on May 29th, 1917 in Brookline, Massachusetts. He was born into a very large family. He had 9 siblings. I'm an only child, so 9 siblings seems like quite a lot to me. I cannot imagine myself having 9 siblings. But even if you have more than 9 siblings or 9 siblings or anything like that, you probably still think that 9 siblings is a lot. Despite his success in later life, John F. Kennedy was not the best student in his grade. One of his teachers said that he could do better in school. Now let's jump ahead several years. And now John F. Kennedy is graduating from Harvard University and he has entered the Navy. Then World War II took place. Basically what happened was one day during World War II, he had a PT boat, and then the PT boat was rammed and sunk. Now, he had very bad injuries from the incident, but he also managed to lead the survivors to safety, and I think that's extremely brave. Also, I cannot imagine myself having a lot of cuts on myself and leading a lot of people to safety on the other side of the water. Remember, he was in water. But I guess people in the Navy are kind of trained for stuff like that. Before he became US president in 1961, making him the first Roman Catholic president and the youngest president elected, he also was in the US Senate and the US House of Representatives, so he, I guess, had some experience before becoming president. Now let's talk a bit about his wife, Jacqueline Kennedy. Jacqueline Kennedy was born Jacqueline Bouvier, and they got married in 1953. Jacqueline Kennedy was a very famous fashion icon throughout the US. She inspired many trends through the 60s and 70s, such as pillbox hats, oversized sunglasses, elbow-length gloves, and strapless gowns. Also, she did a lot of awesome things. She refurnished and redecorated the White House and Grand Central Station in New York. And she also rescued some buildings from destruction in Lafayette Square. JF Kennedy became president in 1961, as I said before. He had a very memorable quote from his inaugural speech. Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. And I think that's also a very eloquent quote. Sadly, John F. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963, maybe a couple months after he gave the moon speech in Dallas, Texas. Now, let's talk about the space race and what that is and what that has to do with JF Kennedy's speech. The space race was basically a race between the US and the Soviet Union to see who could first put a man on the moon and other things related to space. John F. Kennedy gave the moon speech on September 12th, 1963. He gave it at Rice University in Houston. There are a lot of memorable quotes from that speech too, but I would like to share with you guys one quote that I found especially interesting and eloquent. Many years ago, the great British explorer George Mallory, who was to die on Mount Everest, was asked, why did he want to climb it? He said, because it is there. Well, space is there, and we're going to climb it, and the stars and the planets are there, and new hopes for knowledge and peace are there. And Therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked. As I said before, that speech eventually led to putting a man on the moon, which was an extremely big achievement since the moon is like really far away. And it was very tedious work to get a man on the moon and to build a rocket, Apollo 11, and other things. On July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong took his first step on the moon, making him the first man on the moon. And I still think that is a very important part in US history. That is a bit about John F. Kennedy's speech, The Decision to Go to the Moon. Thank you.